Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramhansa Paribhajakacharya Astater Siddhishri Sriman Srila Bhakti Sundar Govindadev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramhansa Paribhajakacharya Astater Siddhishri Sriman Srila Bhakti Rakha Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Welcome to Sri Chaitanya SCSMission morning class. Jai Dandavat. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jata Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitangstam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitangscha Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam. Haribo. Got my glasses. Haribo. Jai Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Ki Jai. Srila Om Vishnupada A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Ki Jai. Again, Srila Om Vishnupada A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. We're continuing to read beginning the 15th chapter. The Lord's Poganda Leela. Poganda's boyhood. A synopsis of the 15th chapter is as follows. The Lord took lessons in grammar from Gangadas Pandit and became very expert in commenting upon grammar. He forbade his mother to take grains on the Ekadasi day. He narrated a story that Vishwarup, after accepting the sannyas order, invited him in a dream to accept sannyas also, but the Lord refused and was therefore sent back home. When Jagannath Mishra passed away, the Lord married the daughter of Balabhacharya, whose name was Lakshmi. All these events are summarized in this chapter, chapter 15 of the first canto, first Leela, Adi Leela. This is the second volume, though. Text number 1. Kumanas umanastvam hi jatiyasya padabjayo sumanor panamatrena tam chaitanya prabhum bhaje. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya, because simply by offering a flower at his lotus feet, even the most ardent materialist becomes a devotee. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda. All glories to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to Lord Nityananda Prabhu. All glories to Advaita Acharya. And all glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Poganda Lilara Shutra Kari Eganana Poganda Vayase Prabhuda Mukhya Ajayana. Let me now enumerate the activities of the Lord between the ages of 5 and 10. The chief occupation during this period was to engage himself in study. So we read yesterday how that ceremony was performed to begin the Lord's studies. Pogandalila Chaitanya Krishna Syati Suvistrita Vidyaramba Mukapani Grahananta Manohara. The pastimes of the Lord during his Poganda age were very, very extensive. His education was his chief occupation, and after that his very beautiful marriage took place. Gangadasa Pandita Stane Padena Vyakarana Shravana Matre Kante Kaila Shutra Vrittigana. When the Lord was studying grammar at the place of Gangadas Pandit, he would immediately learn grammatical rules and definitions by heart, simply by hearing them once. Purport Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that the Lord was given lessons by a teacher named Vishnu and another teacher named Sudarshan. Later on, when he was a little grown up, he was under the care of Gangadas Pandit, who taught him grammar of a higher standard. Anyone serious about studying the Sanskrit language should first learn grammar. It is said that simply to finish studying Sanskrit grammar takes at least 12 years. But once one learns the grammatical rules and regulations very nicely, all other scriptures or subject matters in Sanskrit are extremely easy to understand, for Sanskrit grammar is the gateway to education. It's very fixed. And therefore, by learning the grammar, one can read Sanskrit and understand what it's saying. But without that, he will be subject to the tendency to speculation and just make up meanings, not understanding how all things written in grammar follow these grammatical rules. And therefore, expression of ideas is very, it's not subject to huge amounts of speculation at all. This put next to this means this. And it's very, very important to hear from those who know these things. Otherwise, anybody can just say anything means anything. Alpakale haila panji takate pravina chirakale rab paduya jine haya navina. He soon became so expert in commenting on the Panjitika that he could win victory over all the other students, although he was a neophyte. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that there is a commentary on grammar named Panjitika that was later explained very lucidly by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ajayana Lila Prabhura Dasa Vrindavana Chaitanya Mangale Kaila Vishtari Varnana. In his book, Chaitanya Mangal, which later became the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur has very elaborately described the Lord's pastimes of study. The Chaitanya Bhagavat Adikanda, chapters 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are a good reference for the studious pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Akadina Mata Rapade Kariya Pranama Prabhu Kahe Mata More Deha Akadana. One day Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fell down at the feet of his mother and requested her to give him one thing in charity. Matabale Tai Diba Jatumi Magibe Prabhu Kahe Ekadashite Ana Na Kaibe. His mother replied, "My son, I will give you whatever you ask." Then the Lord said, "My dear mother, please do not eat grains on the Ekadashi day." From the very beginning of his childhood life, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu introduced the system of observing a fast on the Ekadashi day. In the Bhakti Sandarbha by Srila Jiva Goswami, there is a quotation from the Skanda Purana admonishing that a person who eats grains on Ekadashi becomes a murderer of his father, mother, brother, and spiritual master. And even if he is elevated to the Vaikuntha planet, he will fall down. On Ekadashi, everything is cooked for Vishnu, including regular grains and dal, but it is enjoined that a Vaishnava should not even take Vishnu prasadam of that sort on Ekadasi. It is said that a Vaishnava does not accept anything edible that is not offered to Lord Vishnu, but on Ekadashi, a Vaishnava should not touch even Mahaprasad offered to Vishnu, although such prasadam may be kept for being eaten the next day. It is strictly forbidden for one to accept any kind of grain on Ekadasi, even if it is offered to Lord Vishnu. That was a shelter given to sin personified. When Lord Vishnu visited. Of course, these are more relative understanding of Ekadashi, but that pastime has been given. And on visiting Yamaraj, he heard the cries of those suffering in the hellish planets. And he said, oh, then I forgive all your sin. On Ekadashi, all your sins every Ekadashi, all the sins of everyone will simply disappear. But sin personified came and said, then where will be my shelter on Ekadashi? Where do I go? And he said, you can live in food grains. So this is one thing. But of course, Ekadashi has a much higher significance in transcendental thought. Shachikahe nakai babala I kahila sehaite ekadashi karite lagila. Mother Shachi said, you have spoken very nicely. I shall not eat grains on Ekadashi. From that day, she began to observe fasting on Ekadashi. Purport, it is a prejudice among Smarta Brahmins that a widow must observe fasting on Ekadashi, but a woman who is a sadhava, who has her husband, should not. It appears that before Sri Chaitanya's request, Shachimyata, being a sadhava, was not observing Ekadashi. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu introduced a system that a woman, even if not a widow, must observe Ekadashi day and must not touch any kind of grains, even those offered to the deity of Vishnu. Tabe Mishra Vishwarupera Dekiya Jovana Kanya Chahi Vivaha Dite Karile Namana. Thereafter, seeing that Vishwarup was a grown-up youth, Jagannath Mishra wanted to find a girl and arrange a marriage ceremony for him. Finding a girl means a qualified girl who will be compatible for him in his holy life, human life. Vishwarupa Shunigara Chati Palaila Sanyasa Kariya Tirtha Kariba Abaregela. Hearing of this, Vishwarupa immediately left home and went away to accept sannyas and travel from one place of pilgrimage to another. Shunishachi Mishrera Duki Haila Mana Tabe Prabhu Mata Pitara Kaila Ashvasana. When Shachimata and Jagannath Mishra heard of the departure of their eldest son, Vishwarup, they were very unhappy, but Lord Chaitanya tried to console them. So these emotions of separation from devotees are not to be, we're not trying to become, like machines. That there is some feelings of separation, but we must always see everything in relationship to divine will. But they really to be separated from a devotee is a very painful thing. Balahaila Vishwarupa Sanyasa Karila Pitrikula Matrikula Dui Uddarila. My dear mother and father, the Lord said, it is very good that Vishwarupa has accepted the sannyas order, for he has delivered both his father's family and his mother's family. Purport. It is sometimes said that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu disapproved of the acceptance of the sannyas order in this Kali Yuga, because in the Shastra it is said, Ashramedam Gavalambam Sanyasang Palapaitrikam Davarena Sutotpating Kalau Pancha Vivarjayet. In this age of Kali, 5 acts are forbidden: the offering of a horse in sacrifice, the offering of a cow in sacrifice, the acceptance of the order of sannyas, the offering of oblations of flesh to the forefathers, and a man's begetting children in his brother's wife. Brahma Vaivarta Purana, Krishna Janmakanda. So these things could be done in previous ages. But these sacrifices, for example, are not doable by anyone in Kali Yuga. We can't perform them properly, and therefore will be a disaster. And the horse sacrifice, and the acceptance of the order of sannyas. But of course, we'll hear more of this purport. But the purpose of the acceptance of sannyas for the purpose of preaching is fully acceptable. But the karmakanda sannyas, that is not acceptable, and certainly not Mayavad sannyas. Nevertheless, we see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself accepted sannyas and approved of the sannyas of his elder brother Vishwarupa. It is clearly said here, Balahaila Vishwarupa sannyasa kaila pitrikula matrikula dui udarila. Therefore, it should be thought that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made statements that are contradictory. No, actually he did not. It is recommended that one accept sannyas to dedicate his life for the service of the Lord, and everyone must take that kind of sannyas. For by accepting such sannyas, one renders the best service to both his paternal and maternal families. But one should not accept the sannyas order of the Mayavad school, which has practically no meaning. We find many Mayavadi sannyasis simply loitering in the street, thinking themselves to be Brahman or Narayan and spending all day and night begging so that they can fill their hungry bellies. Mayavadi sannyasis have become so degraded that there is a section of them who eat everything, just like hogs and dogs, because everything's all one, so we just eat anything. It is such degraded sannyas that it is prohibited in this age. Actually, Srila Shankaracharya's principles for the acceptance of sannyas were very strict, but later the so-called Mayavadi sannyasis became degraded because of their false philosophy, which propounds that by accepting sannyas, one becomes Narayan. So just take sannyas and you're Narayan. It's super easy. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rejected that kind of sannyas, but the acceptance of sannyas is one of the items of the Varnashram Dharma. How then can it be rejected? So can't take sannyas. Also in the Karmakanda section, taking sannyas for some material thing, that is also not really the sannyas that is recommended by Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu it is only for the service of the Lord that one will accept the sannyas order. Amita kariba toma duhara sevana suniya shantushta haila pitramataramana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu assured his parents that he would serve them, and thus the minds of his father and mother were satisfied, saying, I will take care of you, I'm not going to leave you. And they're thinking, oh, he will be here. Akadina Naivedya Tambula Kaiya Brahmite Pandila Prabhu Achetana. One day, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ate betel nuts offered to the deity, but they acted as an intoxicant, and he fell down on the ground unconscious. Purport: betel nuts are an intoxicant, and therefore the regulated principles prohibit eating them. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes of fainting after eating betel nuts is a solid instruction to all of us that we should not touch betel nuts, even those offered to Vishnu, just as one should not touch grains on the Ekadashi day. Of course, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's fainting had a particular purpose. As the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can do whatever he likes and eat whatever he wants, but we should not imitate his pastimes. So in some temples, in some Vaishnava temples, betel nuts are offered to the deity, but Srila Guru Maharaj and Srila Saraswati Thakur did not allow that, because that prasadam will not be honored, because the devotees cannot take that. Whereas the Ekadashi prasadam, that can be honored on Dvadashi. Aste vyaste pita mate mukadila pani Shushthahanya kahe prabhu apurva kahini. After his father and mother sprinkled water on his mouth with great haste, the Lord revived and said something wonderful that they had never heard before. Atahaite vishwarupa more lanyagela sannyasa karahatumi amare kahila. The Lord said, Vishwarup took me away from here, and he requested me to accept the sannyas order. While he was fainted, this pastime took place. Ami kahi amara anata pitamata, ami balaka sannyasera kipajani kata. I replied to Vishwarup, I helped my helpless father and mother, and also I am but a child. What do I know? What do I know about the sannyas order of life? Grihasta haiya kariba pitamata rasevan ihate itushta habena lakshmi narayana. Later I shall become a householder and thus serve my parents, for this action will very much satisfy Lord Narayan and his wife, the goddess of fortune. Tabe Vishwarupa iha patai lamore mata ke kahio koti koti namaskare. Then Vishwarup returned me home and requested, offer thousands and thousands of obeisance to my mother Shachi Devi. E mata nanya lila kare gaura hari ki karane lila iha bunjite napari. In this way, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed various pastimes, but why he did so, I cannot explain. The Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees who come to this world are executing a mission, and therefore sometimes they act in a way that is very difficult to understand. It is said, therefore, Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Vigyeha Na Bhajaya. Even if one is a very learned and intelligent scholar, he cannot understand the activities of a Vaishnava, because they are all transcendental, and their purpose is not necessarily known within the purview of mundane thought or even mundane religious thought. It is always 100% independent and fully dedicated and fully inspired. A Vaishnava accepts anything favorable for executing his mission. But foolish persons, not knowing the purpose of such exalted Vaishnavas, indulge in criticizing them. That is forbidden. Now, if you want to know what's forbidden, that's forbidden. Since no one can understand what a Vaishnava does for the purpose of executing his mission, to criticize such a Vaishnava is the offense called sadhu ninda. Katadina rahi mishra gela paraloka, mata putra dunhara badila hriddi shoka. After some days, Jagannath Mishra passed away from this world to the transcendental world, and both mother and son were very much aggrieved in their hearts. And again, this separation, the pralamba, from the great Vaishnava. Bandhu bandava ashidunha prabodila pitri kriha viddimate ishwara karila. Friends and relatives came there to pacify Lord Chaitanya and his mother. Since then, Lord Chaitanya, even though he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, executed the rituals for his dead father according to the Vedic system. He's showing this example. And this is part of Mahaprabhu's pastimes as Yuga Avatar. So Yuga Avatar and the fully inconceivable rare and inconceivably rare appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Rasaraj Mahabhav combined, those came together in the same time and in the same appearance. So sometimes Mahaprabhu is doing things to show an example of behavior of human society in general. And so, and also out of transcendental love, he offered pinda and did the necessary rituals, religious rituals, for assisting the departed soul. Katadine Prabhuchite Karila Chintana Grihasta Hailama Ebe Chahi Griha Dharma. After some days the Lord thought, I did not take sannyas, and since I am remaining at home, it is my duty to act as a grihasta. This is also part of religious duty, that a boy will not stay at home unless he becomes married. He can stay at home, but he will be a married man. Grihini bina griha dharma nahaya shobana atachinti vivaha karite hailamana. Without a wife, Lord Chaitanya considered, there is no meaning to household life. Then the Lord decided to marry. Na griham griham ityahor grihini griham uchate tayahi shahita sarvan purushartam samashnute. Merely a house is not a home, for it is a wife who gives a home its meaning. If one lives at home with his wife, together they can fulfill all the interests of human life. Daive yekadina prabhupadya ashite balabachajera kanya deke gangapate. One day when the Lord was coming back from school, he accidentally saw the daughter of Balabhacharya on the way to the Ganges. Purva siddha bhava dunhara iudaya karila daive bandamale gataka shachistane aila. When the Lord and Lakshmi Devi met, their relationship awakened because they are, as Gaur Narayan, as the Yuga Avatar, the Lord is always accompanied by Lakshmi Devi, the daughter of Balabhacharya. This is their eternal relationship. When the Lord and Lakshmi Devi met, their relationship awakened, having already been settled, and coincidentally, the marriage maker Vanamali came to see Shachi Mata. I really love the way Srila Prabhupada tells this story. Naturally, their eternal relationship awakens, and in the meantime, the matchmaker had gone to the home of Shachi Mata to propose this marriage. And anyway, Banamali Gataka, a resident of Navadvipa and a Brahmin by caste, arranged the marriage of the Lord to Lakshmi Devi. He was formerly Vishvamitra, who negotiated the marriage of Lord Ramachandra, and later he was the Brahmin who negotiated the marriage of Lord Krishna with Rukmini. That same Brahmin acted as the marriage maker of the Lord in Chaitanya Leela. So this is all going on by divine arrangement. So Rukmini had written a letter to the Lord. Her brother's name was Rukmi, and he wanted her to marry Shishupal, his friend Shishupal. They were all demoniac type of people. And knowing that and hearing that, Rukmini Devi, who had heard the glories of the Lord and her eternal affection for the Lord and attraction for the Lord, was awakened upon hearing that. she wrote a letter to the Lord and requested that he come and take her away. He said, you are like a lion. You come and take me away. I'm to be only enjoyed by you and not by the jackal. Shishupal. So, but she entrusted that letter to one Brahmin who took it to Dwarka and delivered it to Krishna. And that is the same person as Vishwamitra, who brought Ramachandra to the Swayamvar of Sita Devi, and as this as Vanamali Gataka, who came to arrange the marriage between Mahaprabhu and Lakshmi Devi. So we can continue this tomorrow, but the way Srila Prabhupada tells this story is very funny and sweet. And he said that when the Lord saw Lakshmi Devi, naturally he wanted, she is his eternal consort, so he wanted to marry her. And then when he got home, Shachi Devi was turning Vanamali, I think, right, Vanamali, away, saying, no, he's quite young. I think we'll wait a little while before his marriage. And when he saw that person was gone, when Mahaprabhu came home, he saw that this matchmaker was leaving the house. So he went to Shachi Devi. He said, who is that person? He said, oh, that is the matchmaker, one Brahmin, Vanamali. He said, oh, what does he want? What does he want? Well, he wants to arrange a marriage. Oh, really? With who? And so she could understand, oh, no, Mahaprabhu wants to do this. And so it is a good time. So she called him back and the marriage was arranged. Very nice. The way Srila Prabhupada tells them, oh, who is that? She said, oh, he wants to marry. Jai. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj ki jai. Srila Om Vishnupada A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, now we'll go to Shri Shri Upadeshamrita. Jai Srila Rupa Goswami ki jai. Sad Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Haribo, Shri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga ki jai. And here we are reading the commentary on Sangha Tyaga, this giving up bad association by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So here, this is a tricky commentary for us. Not that there's any fault in it, of course not. But we have to remember that this is a different time. And it is also, sometimes the context is not there for what we know. For example, Srila Saraswati Thakur, he had many female disciples and he would speak with them. They would talk to him about their spiritual life and he would speak with them. Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, all of them had female disciples. There was not a problem that they were sannyasis. That wasn't a problem for them. The problem is these rules, these strict rules apply when there is a speaking to women in a mundane way, having some kind of just conversation about something, with a mundane kind of woman. And so, all of these things have to be applied according to time and circumstances. Otherwise, we will misunderstand these instructions, and we will commit offense, actually, toward those who have full innocence in their dealings. Even those sannyasis, they are dealing with everyone. There's no problem there whatsoever. But to associate with women in a mundane way on the pretext of something else, that is really cheating, and that is not allowed. We have to be very straightforward in our dealings, and so many things like that. There are two types of Vaishnavas according to the distinction between householders and renunciants. For those who are renunciants, women should not even be spoken to. Therefore, for them, by saying give up the association of women, even conversing with women has been forbidden, as in the statement of Sriman Mahaprabhu in the Anjalila. Chudra jiva shaba markata vairagya kariya, indriya charanya bule prakriti sambhashiya. Wicked souls engage in monkey renunciation, are driven by the senses and roam about conversing with women. So this is we see this in India, and we've heard about this type of thing, that a person will take sannyas to attract women and take advantage of their naivete in some kind of very nasty way. And Mahaprabhu set that standard for that reason, that this should not ever happen among the Vaishnava sannyasis. So everything has to be adjusted properly and understood in full context. Regarding lady devotees, Purvava Prabhu Kaila Shabara Milana Shri Shabadura Haite Kaila Prabhura Darashana. As previously, Mahaprabhu met with everyone, and all the women saw Mahaprabhu from a distance. That was their natural shining. And also the correct behavior of the time. The rule in regard to householder Vaishnavas is as follows. Householders should not associate with others' wives or prostitutes, and they should not engage in any form of association with their own wedded wives other than association permitted by the Dharma scriptures. They should completely avoid uxoriousness. Uxoriousness. I remember looking that word up, and I can't remember now what I mean. Regarding smartas, the instruction of the scripture is as follows. Na griham griham ityaho grihini griham uchate taehi sahita sarvan purushartan samasnute. It is said that a home is not a home. A wife is a home. With a wife, a man can achieve all the goals of his life. For a householder, a wife is necessary. United and focused with his wife, he should pursue the goals of human life. For human beings in general, the goals of life are four: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, or duty, wealth, desire, and liberation. What the scriptures have called prescriptions regarding varna and ashram is dharma. A householder should engage with, or with the help of, his wife in all such observance of prescriptions and avoidance of prohibitions. That which is achieved by observance of dharma is known as artha. So Mahaprabhu, and we were just reading, is as Yuga avatar, setting that kind of example. A home's articles, sons, daughters, cows, animals, and so forth are all artha, or what is to be gained, what is to be had. For enjoying all such artha, there is kama. Dharma, artha, and kama. These three are called trivarga. Pursuing trivarga is the life of a conditioned jiva, of a jiva conditioned by maya and revolving around the wheel of karma. Pursuing trivarga attentively with one's wife is the duty of a smarta householder. A householder should pursue trivarga attentively with his wife night and day. In activities such as visiting holy places, his wife can remain his companion. Until a jiva endeavors for the highest attainment, what other path is there in a life of dharma than endeavoring for trivarga? That's what it's for. Moksha is the jiva's fourth goal of life. Moksha is of two types: the complete cessation of suffering and the attainment of spiritual satisfaction. For those whose life of Dharma is regulated by dry Gyan or Mayavad, complete cessation of suffering is the ultimate goal. Those in whose hearts pure Gyan finds a place ultimately seek spiritual satisfaction. They do not remain attached to the complete cessation of suffering, but they know the cause of suffering. The cause of suffering is ultimately separation, ignoring the fact that the Lord is the supreme controller and his divine will is all auspicious for everyone. That resistance is the cause of every kind of suffering. There may be many kinds of, there's suffering of the body and the mind, suffering from other living beings, suffering from natural problems like wind and rain and earthquakes and so on. Those are all going on, and no one can say that they don't cause suffering. But the inner happiness of a devotee who is connecting with the Lord under all those circumstances surpasses the suffering of the mind and body. And so this is the real cessation of suffering, finding the Lord's sweet will behind everything. This is called Sharanagati, and it is the ultimate practice of the ultimate goal of life. So, whether a Vaishnava is a householder or a renunciant, they are a seeker of spiritual satisfaction. Householder Vaishnavas always aim towards spiritual satisfaction as they engage together with their wives in all their activities. Although they engage in all these activities in this way, they do not become uxorious. In such a life, they cannot indulge in association with women. They should completely avoid unauthorized conversation with women and unspiritual uxoriousness, even in authorized association with women. In other words, his life is regulated. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Sutta Goswami has briefly mentioned the rules for Vaishnava householders. Dharmasya hyapavagyasya nartor tayo pakalpate nartasya dharmai kantasya kamo labaya hi smritaha kamasya nendriya pritir labo jiveta javata jivasya tattva jigyasa narto yascheha karmabhi Atapumbir dvijashesta varnashrama vibhagasha swanutistasya dharmasya sangsiddhir haritoshanam tasmadekena manasa bhagavan sattvatam pati shotavya kirtitavyascha dhyaya pujascha nityada. Artha, wealth, is not fit to be the goal of the followers of transcendental Dharma, and kama, enjoyment of wealth, is not considered the attainment by such exclusive followers of Dharma. The satisfaction of the senses is not the goal of kama. As soon as one may live, inquiry into the absolute truth is the aim, and not anything attainable here through karma. O best of the twice born, the ultimate accomplishment of Dharma performed properly by human beings according to the divisions of Varna and Ashram is the satisfaction of Hari. Therefore, Bhagavan, the master of the devotees, is to be single-handedly heard about, glorified, meditated upon, and worshipped always. That purport is that in the 20 Dharma scriptures, there are as many instructions about the pursuit. There are many instructions about the pursuit of Trivarga, which is Dharma, Artha, and Kama. The merciful rishis have composed 20 Dharma scriptures for the benefit of those eligible for karma, meaning the path of karma kanda. The eligibility of the karmis is stated here. Tava karmani korvita na nirvidyeta yavata matkata shavat na dauva shraddhaya na jayate. Krishna tells Uddhava one should perform karma as long as one has not become disinterested in the mundane or has not developed shraddha in hearing and so forth about me. So in this article, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is simply putting the path of Dharma in its proper place and its proper perspective. That as long as one is not interested in fully surrendering to the Supreme Lord and practicing devotional yoga, practicing devotion under the instruction of the followers of Mahaprabhu, then he must engage in the principles of Dharma, of mundane Dharma, meaning regulating one's activities so that there is some progress in life, in mundane life, in piety, in it's some kind of regulation for gradual progress. But in the end, these things really have no actual value. But still, if one is in human society, one must live according to these principles. Otherwise, everything becomes horrifically chaotic, and everyone goes to a hellish position. They have nothing by which to understand what is to be done and what is not to be done, and the result of each thing. So one has to have faith in the scriptures, and if he has no faith in the transcendental scriptures, or no inclination, no desire to leave this world, but simply to enjoy this world, then he must put his faith in the dharmic scriptures, which are giving all the rules and regulations of achieving dharma, artha, and kama. So that's all. It's just, and it's not even, it's just something to understand what is what in all of these types of things. And so quite often I hear this particular talk where Srila Guru Maharaj is describing something about the pastimes of Mahaprabhu and the principles and the teachings of Mahaprabhu. And just out of nowhere, without any context to what was being discussed, somebody asked about Draupadi. And some talk about why she has 5 husbands and so on. And Srila Guru Maharaj answered the question, but he said, but this has nothing to do. This is all within karma. This is all within the karma kanda. The actions and the reactions of this action happened, and then this happened, and then so on and so on. He said, this has nothing to do with what we are discussing here about the pastimes of Mahaprabhu. And so our real interest is in those teachings and those pastimes. However, and especially in the context of those who are reading these things by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who have been raised in some semblance of Varnashram Dharma in Indian culture. These things are very important, but for us they're not so important. But although in my life I have seen, devotees become a little bit swallowed up by kind of this sort of attraction to this kind of life. But it is not really that important for us. It's not that we're not following some regulated life, because we are very much susceptible, to going in a direction which may be very unfavorable for devotion. So we're also following some regulated life, that's for sure. But that is only in pursuance of devotion and no other reason. That's all. It's just all these things have to be understood correctly. So continuing on. Trivarga is the dharma of the karmis alluded to in this statement of Bhagavan. Those who have become disinterested and eligible for gyan no longer have eligibility to engage in karma focused on Trivarga. And what is Trivarga? Again, dharma, artha, and kama. Trying to achieve dharma or religiosity or gradual upliftment in the universal position to a higher position of enjoyment. Artha, meaning gaining things in this world. And kama, enjoyment. And the regulations and regularity necessary for pursuing these things within the karmakanda goal. So that's one thing. As long as one is not interested in real life, in real transcendental life, then he has to engage in these activities. They have left that and become eligible for sannyas based on dry gyan. So those who have left that and are eligible for gyan or for knowledge, they leave all that. They're not engaged in any of that. Also, no eligibility for karma remains for those who through sukriti have acquired over many lifetimes, attained Bhagavan's mercy, and developed shraddha or faith in hearing narrations of Bhagavan and glorifying Bhagavan. They are Vaishnavas. So neither the Gyanis nor the Vaishnavas are to be caught up in these Trivargas. It is minimal, absolutely minimal. And everything that is done, for example, in household life, is done in pursuance of surrender to the Lord. This is a fully transcendental, enlightened, full understanding of all activities. But again, we're dealing with consciousness. We're dealing with, I asked Srila Gurudev once in London, something about this. I forget my question actually, but he said, you know, why are you asking about this? This is all to do with consciousness. So anyone can be engaged, so-called, as in something that looks like, a religious household life. But that doesn't mean that he's engaged in Trivarga. He's engaged in pursuing his life's duties in surrender to the Supreme Lord. And whatever the Lord arranges as a result of that, he's perfectly happy with that. And surrendering to that more, he will find his path further. This is an extremely different kind of life, even though it may look similar to some other person's religious kind of life. It is very different. And the gyan which he is pursuing is divya gyan. What knowledge is being revealed and descending from the completely uppermost position of divine life and coming solidified in the form of sound coming from the lotus mouth of those great followers of Mahaprabhu. That's the gyan, not this dry nonsense gyan that leads over millions of lifetimes of practice to the Nirvishesh Brahma position. Okay, so we can stop here. There's a little bit left, not too, oh, well, actually, there's a lot left. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Jai Shri Buddha Amrita Ki Jai, Srila Rupa Goswami Pad Ki Jai, Sai Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Jai, let me see something here. Dhanyavad. I don't know who I'm seeing there, but Jai, Dhanyavad. It's nice to talk to people who, to see if there are any questions, because, it seems a little complicated maybe when so many things are being drawn in, and so many things are being drawn in due to this scriptural injunctions for different levels of persons. I mean, religion is an ocean. It's oceanic. There's so much to it that it is absolutely confusing. Even to the great sages, sadhus, the universal rishis and munis who came to give advice to King Parikshit, who were very well versed in the Veda, they had different opinions about what he should do at the time of death. So this is the problem of the Vedic, and Srila, not problem really, in the sense that there's something wrong, but Srila Vyasadeva was very much aware of this, that because there's different prescriptions for different persons, it's going to become confusing to get an overarching understanding of the goal of the Vedas. So he put it all into some sutras. He condensed the whole Veda into very essential elemental sutras. But those were incredibly difficult to understand. Each one of them contained a whole lot of what it was that he was confusing in the first place. And then, after feeling morose about this, Srila Narada Muni appeared, who is the guru of Srila Vedavyas, and gave him the 4 seed mantras of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And from there, Srila Vyasadeva was able to expand all that perfectly. All this descending knowledge came to him. He expressed the Srimad Bhagavatam. And that's the ripened fruit. And generally speaking, we are concerned only with that ripened fruit and the ripened fruit of the Srimad Bhagavatam. I mean, ultimately, to understand the whole goal of all of that, and even more than that, is Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we are very richly endowed with divine knowledge, and it's important to apply ourselves to understand these things carefully. But when we have to speak about what Krishna consciousness isn't, that can be a little bit overwhelming. It's like, but still we're doing that, and we're doing that as it's been offered here by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. But I think that really a lot of what these writings are that were included here, they're important, but they were more important for a different society than they may be for the present society of Vaishnavas in the West, who aren't even familiar so much with Varnashram Dharma and all the different goals of that. So we want to make it brief and succinct and clear. It is there, and we'll come across it. But at the same time, we haven't even really wondered about these things so much because it wasn't part of our upbringing. We got everything fresh. Everything fresh. The final product was our first food, and that is a miracle. The final product was being brought to us from the very beginning. The conclusions of the Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita were the first food that we were offered, and that's a miracle. It's an absolute miracle for us. Jai. Hari Harai Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Gopala Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan. Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Radha Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raghunath. Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Haribol, 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 Haribol. Nitai Gaur Haribol, 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 Haribol. Jai Saparika Shishi Guru Kripal Chandra Ju Ki Jai. Jai Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ju Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupada Paramahansa Pari Brajakacharya Astatarasata Shri Sriman Srila Bhakti Sundar Govindadev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupada Paramahansa Pari Brajakacharya Astatarasata Shri Sriman Srila Bhakti Sundar Govindadev Goswami Maharaj Ki. Srila Bhakti Rakha Shri Dhari Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Madhacharya Vrinda Ki Jai. Saparshad Sriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Saparshad Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radha Kundagiri Govardhan Ki Jai. Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Tadiyashaka Mat Ki Jai. Chaitanya Saraswat Mission Ki Jai. Kol Kartal Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Samaveda Vaishnava Mandala Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nittai Gaur Premanandi. Haribol.